should regard yesterday, September 11th, as this new launching of the struggle to really free the Cuban Five. It's been 10 long years that the Five have been in prison. Every day they wake up behind bars. And for almost 2 years of that 10 years, they were in solitary confinement. Now we know that that's the experience of literally 2 million prisoners in the United States. The vast majority who do not belong in prison. And all the prisoners have a right to a decent life, even if they're behind bars, to a life without terror and the torture and the repression that they experience in prison. The right to have a decent paying job inside prison, and the right to a job when they get out of prison. But I'm talking today about the Cuban Five, who are actually, when you talk to them and write to them, they're very admired by the other inmates. They're admired by them because they know what they have done for Cuba, and many prisoners who have been exposed to them have become their supporters, watching out for them, their friends. Whenever it's their birthday, the other prisoners have celebrations for them. When they were put into the hold for a month, that was going to be a year-long detention order. For example, for Antonio Guerrero, the other inmates who used to go to his English classes went on strike. And they said, we're not going to class until Antonio gets out of the hole. That's the kind of respect that they command inside prison. But sisters and brothers, each day of those 10 years has been a day of great injustice against the Five and against Cuba. It's the people of Cuba that the U.S. government really wants to also punish. They want to tell them, if you try to defend your country against our terrorism, you will pay a price. And I visit Ramon Labañino because you're only allowed to visit one federal inmate at a time by federal regulations. And I have had the privilege of visiting Ramon. And every time I see him and get through to the visiting room, he sits down and he says, first of all, please tell everybody that is working on our behalf, thank you so much for everything you do. And that's my message to you, sisters and brothers, for everything you have done. Ramon and the other Cuban Five, thank you. And they say if it wasn't for the movement, it would be so much harder to carry on. It's the movement and the struggle for them that keeps them going. And they will keep going no matter what. So where are we at right now with the case? On June 4th, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, 3-judge panel in Atlanta ruled to uphold all the convictions of the Cuban Five, all 26 conviction counts, from espionage conspiracy, murder conspiracy, failure to register with the U.S. government as a foreign agent, all that conviction. But 2 of the 5 who have life sentences, and life sentence in federal prison means you do not get out until you die. But 2 of the 5 have their life sentences struck down. That means that they have a chance sometime in the future to get out. However, it could be anywhere from 17 to 30 years. It could be a long sentence, and it could be shorter. And the way that we will help weigh in against that long sentence is to keep up our organizing. The other 3rd inmate, Fernando Gonzalez, who has 19 years, also had his sentence struck down as being excessive. So the 3 of the men will be remanded back to Miami. They will actually appear in Miami court in a few months. The date is not set yet, but they will appear in court in Miami, which is something that we should pay a lot of attention to. It's limited how many people can fit in a courtroom. But every other time that we've had the oral arguments, other court hearings for the 5, other appeals in court, we have mobilized in the National Committee to Free the Cuban Five. We have mobilized to bring people from around the world so that there could be more media attention. For example, last year in August, when they had another appeals hearing, 75 jurists, lawyers, judges, including the judge who prosecuted Pinochet in Chile, who prosecuted the dictator Pinochet. He even attended the hearing, and that helped because on that day, over 100 major newspapers in the U.S. printed articles about that hearing and the presence of these jurists in the United States. So first of all, we're waiting for the resentencing of 3 of them. And by December 1st, the attorneys will have to file their appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, I'm only mentioning the legal matter because it is of great importance, but it's not really what's going to free the 5. What's going to free the 5, what's going to force the courts to give a positive decision on them, is the publicity that we give to show the injustice, to show that they cannot hide and keep this behind curtains and make decisions that give life or many years in prison, that punish Cuba because people don't know about it. I was on Al Jazeera TV last night. It was a live TV broadcast. It's the first time that there's been a story about the 5 in the English Al Jazeera department. And it was very interesting because the woman said to me, but given the situation in the United States, how repressive things are, do you really, really think they'll get out? I mean, what hope is there? And I said, this has been our mantra. This has been our theme. This is our slogan. It's been that since we formed 7 years ago. We truly believe that the American people believe in democracy and justice. They just don't know what it is. But when they find out about the Cuban 5, they're astounded, first of all. And then they say this is not right. And we say, as soon as the American people know about this injustice, like they knew about Nelson Mandela, the people will demand the freedom of the 5. So it's up to us, sisters and brothers. It's not the media that's going to do it primarily. It's our day-to-day, hour-by-hour outreach. So today when we march down the street, we'll hand out flyers to people. We'll ask people to keep in touch with us. I would ask you this. Everybody here is involved in an organization or maybe thinking of it. We hope you get involved with the group. But I ask that you sign the petition that we have gathered for these 7 years. Yesterday we presented 102,000 petitions to the White House. We sent a letter to Bush. We sent a letter to Bush signed by Noam Chomsky, Howard Zinn, Alice Walker, Ramsey Clark, and other individuals. And we said, we want to meet with you to present these petitions now. We knew that wasn't going to happen. So even before we got the response, which is, he didn't meet with us. Even before we got the response, we said, civil disobedience. We're going to shake things up on that day. And yesterday, there were over 100 events around the world, probably more than we know. And we got a message from Montreal that the comrades there said, we're going to have a sit-in in front of the U.S. Embassy. And we got a message from Lebanon that said, we're going to have a sit-in in front of the U.S. Embassy. And then we got a message from Guadalajara that said, we're going to have a sit-in in front of the U.S. Embassy. And we said, right on, we'll be sitting in front of the White House with you. So around the world, there's a network of people in support. And we got 102,000 signatures came from the United States. And every petition signature required a lot of explanation, but it was good explanation. And every time we met someone, we said, you may not hear about the rest of their news or their struggle in the media. So sign our petition, give us your email, we'll put you on the list. We send hardly any emails out. But if anything happens to the 5, when the Supreme Court, if they hear their case, when the appeals are filed, anything that happens with them, and finally when they're freed, sisters and brothers, you will hear it from us on our listserv. That's what we ask you to do, to keep up your work in your organization and to sign up on our petition and to keep the struggle going for all political prisoners, for Leonard Peltier, for Mumia Abu Jamal, for the Angola 3, for the San Francisco 8 who